Memphis. Nothing but Memphis. Everywhere we go, it's Memphis. Memphis, Tennessee, the beautiful land in the world.
And I'm thankful for this guy who tweeted and said I don't have that fire in my eyes no more. That game right there was for him. That's what I do. I prove people wrong each and every night, and that's for him right there.
Hi, this is Tom Izzo at Michigan State, and you're listening to Grizz 901.
Yo, what up, Grizz Nation, and welcome back to another episode of Grizz 901. This is the post-game show here with Bluff City Media. We have a game that is going on right now. I've been dying to push this go live button for so long, and Nate would not let me do it. But at last, we are here. The Grizzlies are losing. I imagine it's probably like 20 points at this point. It's been around that 20-point number for the majority of the game, and so we want to go ahead and get started as late as we could. They kept it within 18, 17, and then finally, once it hit that big dunk, we had to go ahead and move on. But the Grizzlies are still playing. They have about 4.5 minutes left as of right now, so we're going to go ahead and finish up with the game while we watch live with you. But we want to go ahead and start talking through it because, one, it's late as hell, and I'm trying to go to sleep, just going to be honest. So let's go ahead and get the show started. Yo, Nate. What's up, man? What's up?
Not my hopes.
Are you awake?
I'm barely up, but yeah, we're here.
Grizzlies are down 125-103 currently as Junior is in the game, as all their fans have been clamoring for at this point because all their other favorites have literally got demolished as we speak. But go ahead and go off the top rope, man. Let's just go ahead and get it out of the way. Thoughts on just this game in general, not the whole entire season. I want to hear about all of that. I want to hear about just this game, anything that you want to talk about.
That was just getting it just put straight on your forehead and just taking it. Just taking it. I'm convinced the league gives the team playing the Grizzlies bigger baskets. Like, here's my thing. If anybody's joining us tonight, first off, thanks for joining us. It's 11 o'clock my time, which means it's really late for you guys. If you're coming in here expecting me to just be angry, wrong show. I don't know what else this is. Like, I don't know if anyone else has watched the Lakers play much this year, but I'm not sure Rui Hachimura or D'Angelo Russell made a three so far this season before tonight.
Bro, and they are shooting 62.9% from three and 57.7 overall. They're shooting better from three than they are from two tonight.
Listen, I understand. The Grizzlies' three-point defense. The Grizzlies' three-point defense is abominable.
It's bad.
It's horrible. It's been horrible all season.
Why?
It is not 62 point whatever percent abominable. Like, listen, I've seen Rui Hachimura and D'Angelo Russell both make like 3 contested threes tonight.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I'm like, part of it is people are so comfortable shooting against Memphis. And there's so much help defense that they just get into a rhythm. That's 100% a part of it. Part of it's also like, what the hell? Why does God hate the Memphis Grizzlies? I don't know. But listen, we can get into more like true analysis of the game tonight, but like, I don't know what you want me to say, dude. Like, they got dominated all game long.
You know what I call? As Luke says, BS. This game is just straight BS. Man, I just, looking at this game in general, it's hard to take anything from this game because obviously you have Smart go down, which didn't help. Luke, I think he's being held out of the game just because it's a 20-plus game at halftime at that point. You're talking about why come back? If it was me, I probably would have played Bane early and then just kind of like, you know what, let's go ahead and sit him. Jaren's been sitting the whole game, I believe. He didn't play tonight, right? Jaren.
No, he was out there. It was hard.
Oh, he was. I thought he had a DNP. So he's been playing?
you clearly weren't watching the worst part of the game if you didn't know he played. Listen, I've been praising Jaren all year. I stand by my praise for him. I've got actually a handful of positives, but 2 really fat negatives. Jaren is one of those fat negatives. It's gonna be honest. We're just gonna set the stage for the agenda for tonight's show. Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to be the only player with a negative on it. It's not me saying I think he sucks. It's not me saying F this dude, he can't play, whatever. But it's going to be a negative that is just a fact at this point. So we'll get into all of that tonight.
Well, yeah, so I heard at halftime that his parents were looking for him. I wasn't sure if anybody else had seen that, but they had put out a missing persons report. They hadn't seen Jaren as well. He came out after halftime, hit a shot. It was crazy. Everybody was happy that they actually found him. But then he's gone again. I'm not sure what happened.
You're telling me Anthony Davis was able to go file a missing persons report at halftime?
Yes, he had time.
That's Jaren's daddy.
It is.
Listen, I love Jaren. I think he's been awesome for most of this year. He's a big part of this team. But Anthony Davis, he is Anthony Davis' son. It is. All right,
Listen, I'm not there. There's 39 seconds left. The Grizzlies are about to completely lose this game at this point.
Hey, kept it under 30. That was my halftime goal.
I should have taken Ryan's bet. Ryan said to take them a 19.5 number, and I didn't. I should have went ahead and just done it. And said he hit it, obviously. So 134, 107 is the end goal. What's that total number, real quick? Are we?
We're
close to what he
said? 241.
What was the
Pretty sure it was 230? Maybe you said 232. I thought it was.
Sorry, 1 second. I want to find out Grizz Teller real quick. See if we're giving something away. That's what I want to find out real quick. If we're giving something away, does anybody remember what the number was on Grizz Teller?
211. Yeah, I was about to say. He said 211.
No, it was more than that.
I don't think so.
All right, I'm going to find it real quick. Hold on 1 second because this is terrible. It's 120 to 112, so 232. And what was the final score?
Oh, so it was 232. 141. So it was within 9.
Wow. Hey. We're going to give something away. Listen, I'm excited. I'm happy. We're going to give something away. So we'll go ahead and look through. When we have our commercials, I'm going to look through our stuff and just kind of see. We had some comments over on YouTube. We have comments on Twitter. I think there was another comment somewhere else. So, hey, we're going to give something away. This is what I'm happy about. I'm happy that we give a chance to give something away. Tonight, we're going to have a guest that comes on with us as well. And so we're going to let him be able to predict the Grizzlies' next game. The Grizzlies take on the Spurs at 7 o'clock on the 18th.
You've got a full week, basically, to sit on this game.
Yes. And so, right, obviously, it's the 14th today. And so the Grizzlies have 3 days off before they take on the 18th against the Spurs at 7 o'clock. It will be another game on the road. I would imagine the Grizzlies come home and then leave back out and go to San Antonio. But I think we're going to have a fun time at it. So we're going to have another Grizz Teller. And so Mark's going to be able to give us – Mark Giannotto is going to join us here shortly. He's going to be able to give us his prediction on the Spurs game. But also I want him to give us what the score would be at that point so we can go ahead and have another giveaway. But tonight we're going to look through here and find out exactly who was the person who guessed close enough to win the free 1-year subscription. Remember this, Nate, the free 1-year subscription to the BCM Insider Program, and then the $100 free merch gift card to BCM. So make sure you stay tuned. But real quick, we're going to go ahead and hit a quick break. So stay tuned. We're going to have Mark Giannotto as soon as we get out of this break. It's 1 minute and 7 seconds. Stay tuned.
Yeah, because Zach Randolph went into the Blazers organization that had some characters. Underline the word characters, right. Okay? He's coming from Michigan State. He's from Marion, Indiana. And then you go to Portland, Oregon, which it's an entirely different culture, entirely different demographic. He had people around him who were guys from Marion, hey, you owe us. Anthony, one of the key memories of my time here in Memphis off the court, I did a Read to Achieve event with Zach Randolph. And the kid who read the most books, his prize was to get to interview Zach Randolph. And the young man, first question to Zach is, what's the hardest thing for a black athlete to learn? And Zach did not give him any, like BS fluff answer. He said, a lot of times the people who say they're your friends, they're not your friends. And you have to pick the people around you very, very wisely.
Tune in to The Anthony Sane Show, Wednesdays and Fridays at 12 p.m. weekly on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Yo, we're back. Coming back after the Grizzlies take the loss here, 107 to the Lakers, 134. Real quick, Mark Giannotto, can you hear us? I don't think you can hear us because we can't hear you. There we go. We can hear you now. There we go. That was my fault. I forgot to push the button. Yes.
All right. I'm live here from my car in my garage, so don't wake my two kids.
Well, don't do like my wife did at one point and turn the car on while the garage is closed. She thought only if you run the heat does that actually activate the carbon dioxide. Not the smartest, but I love her anyway. Mark, first thoughts on the game.
Well, it didn't go well.
What a question.
I mean, honestly, the fact they beat the Clippers, this kind of felt like gravy if you were going to beat the Lakers, especially once LeBron and Anthony Davis were playing.
Right.
The bad part about it is, ultimately, how long's Marcus Smart going to be out? And Luke Kennard, didn't play the second half because of knee soreness. And that to me is the real bummer of it, because, ultimately, especially with Smart, Kennard's, hopefully that's a minor. I didn't see anything specific happen. We didn't see a highlight or anything where an injury happened, but the Smart one looked pretty bad, obviously.
Right.
And if either of those guys are out for a while, that's obviously going to compound things as you're trying to survive here, this early season schedule. And, and the reality is the schedule's about to pick up. You got a bunch of, especially next week, you got a bunch of tough games, but they didn't seem to have it from the get-go. I mean, the Lakers seemed to come out very physical, very motivated in this one. And, for a second there, I guess that, it seemed okay there for a second. Gilliard's hitting shots, Bane was hitting shots, Smart was playing okay early, but then, where it really turned, it felt like, was when Anthony Davis stuffed Jaren twice in a row in the first quarter. And then obviously the scuffle with Santi and Davis. I thought that was kind of BS that the Grizzlies, it felt like Davis initiated all that, but nonetheless, it spiraled after that. And, you just move on, I guess, to Saturday, but it does, this start to the season I phrased it in a column that came out this morning at commercialappeal.com. Like, there's a fear there now, at least for me. I don't know about you guys, that wasn't there, say, even at the end of last season when they got humiliated by the Lakers, in Game 6. I'm not saying it's all going to hell, but like the inner pessimist in me there's a fear there that this is all going to hell. At least for this season, even though there's still a lot of season left, and there's still not, there's still a pathway, as bad as this has been, for them to be a play-in team at least. But right now it's hard when you're in the thick of it, so to speak. And tonight feels like it only made it worse with the Smart and Kennard injuries.
No, I don't know if you could have said it best, honestly. Because that was kind of spot on. But he is Mark Giannotto from the Commercial Appeal, also at 929 ESPN, 2 to 4, Giannotto and Jeffrey show. So make sure you tune in. Mark is in his car. If you're joining us, if you have some questions for Mark as well in the chat, please go ahead and hit us up. So we'll go ahead and get through those. We got him for about another 10 or 12 minutes. So make sure you get those in quickly. If you're watching on Twitter for whatever reason, come over to YouTube so we can see your questions. But Mark, I want to ask you something about Jaren. And I know me and Nathan are going to get into it eventually at some point. But Jaren, if you see these tough games, having somebody that is a core piece to this team, as Jaren is with Bane, but also Ja, him being one of the trifecta of this team, can he be this soft, but also just kind of, I guess, the toughness? Can you question the toughness, or does that all change whenever a Ja comes back and then you have a Ja Bane? But I guess without those two, is it really sad, or is he really going to be that guy? Is he the third piece to this trifecta with those other two?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think he's had 2 bad games, and frankly, I mean, we saw in the playoffs last year. I mean, ultimately, Jaren is a very good big man in the NBA.
Yeah.
When push comes to shove, like ultimately, a guy like Anthony Davis is a little bit better than him still. When Davis is engaged like he is tonight. But I think with what Jaren does on both ends of the floor, I think he's a very valuable piece. Do I think he'll ever be the number 1 or 2 offensive option on a championship caliber team? I don't know about that, but he's the type of guy you need to have on a championship team because of the way he plays defense and because he can do a lot of different things. I think the problem with his offensive game right now is he can do a lot of things, but like, what is he great at offensively? Like, truly, like, what can he call upon in any moment? Last year, it seemed like he was developing, his post game was really coming into its own. And I haven't seen him go to the post as much this year. He's been trying to more take people off the dribble.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see him go back to the post more often, especially right now when he's struggling a little bit offensively. But yeah, nothing about this start has made me waver on, frankly, the 3. One, I think, Jaren, like I just said, I think is a very valuable piece. I think Desmond Bane, as a number 1, is miscast, but is a great number 2. And it's what allows, his emergence as an offensive player kind of gives Jaren some leeway to have nights like this. And then I think this start has kind of highlighted how valuable Ja Morant is. Because I can't imagine they would be the Western Conference's worst team if Ja Morant was healthy. But what this start, and this goes back to my comment about the fear part of it, what I think this start has exposed is that everything else around them, needs to be reconsidered. I'm not saying it all needs to go, but like, you need to reimagine this supporting cast around them long term, because I just don't know if it's, as viable as we thought it was even 6 months ago. I mean, you look at it, I mean, Steven Adams, like, I think it would be a mistake to go into next year trusting that he's just going to be healthy or going to be the same. You need some reinforcements there. Your wing situation is not great still. You've got your shoehorning Marcus Smart into that role, but you ultimately, you're missing that 6'7", 6'8" guy who can, they've been missing it for a while. It's become a more pressing, it's still a pressing need, with Dylan gone. And I understood that move. But you need, ultimately none of these young guys, I don't trust any of them. I'm just going to be honest. And so I think they need to reimagine the supporting cast. But if you're talking about, I still feel good about Ja, Dez, and Jaren as a trio, but they're going to need more, they're going to need more guys around them and better guys around them, it feels like.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I guess my next question is, I want to get your opinion on the front office. So a lot of people are blaming the front office on the way this year has gone. What's your thoughts on that? Because when I look at it, you're looking at a lot of players that have not been healthy, whether it's they're still unhealthy right now or they just came back. What are your thoughts on just overall, did the front office let us down by the draft picks that they did when they went all in on I guess youth, I guess 2 years ago in the draft, but also this past offseason when we knew we would be without Clark, but then now early into the season without Steve-O.
Yeah, I see, because I blame if you're gonna go blame game, I blame the front office for this more than the coaching staff. Like I know a lot of people have focused on Taylor Jenkins' coaching, and he hasn't been spectacular either. But I look more at the front office, and you're right. Like some of this is just bad luck. Like, you lose, you bet on Clark after he has the great playoffs in 2022, and you give him the contract, and he looks pretty good for the first half last year, and then suffers, what feels like the worst possible injury for someone like him who relies on his jump and his athleticism. The Adams thing played out the way it played out. And so I blame the front office, but I also don't think I think they've deserved the right to try and fix what they've messed up, so to speak. And the two key things I look at, I've said this on the radio show. I think we will look back, no matter how this plays out. The worst day of Zach Kleiman's tenure as GM was the 2022 NBA draft.
Yeah.
What they did there, trading away an additional first-round draft pick to move up to go get LaRavia, who doesn't look like anything, and then trading away DeAnthony Melton to trade up and get Roddy. When with both guys, you would have had a shot at getting them where you were originally picking anyways. I kind of look at, so I think that was a huge mistake. And Zach Kleiman's admitted as much. He admitted it after the end of last season. And then I do think the Adams situation, the front office handled poorly, because the fact that it was even a remote possibility that he was going to have to maybe have season-ending surgery, to not address that in free agency, this offseason, to not address, to not be building the roster, thinking, man, we could lose that, like Adams is kind of iffy a little bit here still, and they've lucked out, that Biyombo was available, and he's been a decent fit. He's had some good games so far, but ultimately part of this bad start is they were not prepared to play without Adams. And it feels like when you hear the scuttlebutt, they should have been preparing alternatives and backup plans for, if Adams was not going to be healthy this year. And it feels whether they, it doesn't matter which way you look at it, whether they didn't know or they didn't plan for it. It was a mistake. But all that said, I think they can, I think I would give Zach Kleiman and company the chance to fix it. I'm not out on the front office, even though I kind of look at them and say, yes, there's been some bad injury luck here, but there's some stuff you guys could have done better. It's very clear at this point, and you can't just ignore that.
Yeah, I think they've only had one bad draft because, you're looking at, you're grabbing Bane, X, Santi, and then you have now Gigi that has come over. Even in that bad draft of 2022, I think Roddy is a playable guy in this. I know people and the fans clamor for Lofton. And so I think you do have some good pieces, but all in all, moving up to go all in and getting LaRavia was probably their worst thing they've done so far. And then Zaire obviously didn't pan out. And so they've had some misses, but they've had some hits too. So I don't want to take away too much from them.
It's not that they've had hits and misses. It's that they shouldn't have been drafting so many guys. You should have been adding. This team everyone thought they needed vets 2 years ago. And what they did instead was they got rid of some vets and, made the locker room even younger. And it's backfired. It's just very clear. And now they're trying to address it after the fact, but you've dug yourself a hole here. I liked the addition of Marcus Smart this offseason. I didn't mind the Derrick Rose signing, even though, I never anticipated him being part of the rotation once Ja came back. I understand why they did it, given how last year played out. It just feels like they're doing it at least a year too late. Like it just feels like when you look at it, they were, they lose to Golden State in the 2022 playoffs, and looking back, it's like, man, like if they just, they were maybe another vet away from really pushing over the top potentially. And now everything's different with the injuries and the circumstances. It's changed a little bit. Not to say it can't, the trajectory can't get back on course, so to speak. But, this feels like a major bump in the road at this point. I know it's only not 11 games into the season, but you look at this traditionally, like I said, I think they can turn this around and be a play-in team. But, we're not that far removed from thinking this team was a championship contender potentially. And I don't think you can say that right now, even when Ja comes back. Like you can't say that right now.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. All right, three things I want to hit on before you get out of here. Very quick on this one, as a comment from the chat. They're talking about the young guys, and so they're talking about who they would keep, whatever. Give me two of the young guys, and this can be very short and sweet. Two of the young guys that you would say, hey, these are my top two priorities. If I get the choice of who I'm keeping, these are the two guys I want to keep.
Well, see, I look at it a little differently. Like the two, I guess probably the Santi would be one of them, but like I'd be willing to trade Santi because I think he has some actual value.
Right.
While I don't know if a lot of these other young guys have any value. So, like, when you say willing to keep him, like, honestly, like I said, I think they need to reimagine the entire supporting cast. And so, like, there's not really a young guy that I would say, like, oh, I got to keep him. Like,
right.
I would like all those guys. If someone would take them off my hands to give me something meaningful here, I would make that trade in a heartbeat. So, like, it's a tough, like, the top two young guys I'd probably say are, I guess, Roddy and Santi.
Okay.
But like honestly, like who's third right now? Like I know it's only been 3 games, but Jacob Gilliard looks a little more effective than some of these other guys. Right. But like that being said, like all those young guys would be on the chopping block for me. Like if I could get anything for them, I'd do it. If that's if you need to, whatever, like none of them would be off limits in terms of, like I said, I think they need to reimagine this supporting cast. It seems very clear to me. Like the roster is not good enough. They went from having one of their strengths as a team 2 years ago was 8 through 15 on the roster. They had the best 8 through 15 in the NBA.
100%.
And that didn't help you in the playoffs. Like let's be very clear. But that was a major strength of this team. And now it feels like it is the weakness of this team is their depth. And it's, partially because of injuries, but also partially because they've when you think about it, they've discarded a lot of players over the past 3 years. And they just haven't brought back as much as they discarded. I mean, even going back to they gave away Grayson Allen. And I know it was to make room for Desmond Bane, but you got nothing, you essentially let Kyle Anderson go. You essentially, you made a big move and just got rid of DeAnthony Melton, and you got rid of Valanciunas, and it looked okay for a while. But now Adams has been, he's going to essentially be out for a year and a half. So it's just, that's the reality of it. And now I think, like I said, they need to change some things up around that core, I think, because the roster's just not good enough right now.
No, I agree. All right, so some prediction stuff real quick. 2 questions. The first one is now the Grizzlies are 2-9. They have 14 games left before Ja gets back. Everybody's obviously hoping and praying when he comes back that the roster and everything just kind of heals itself instantly. Okay, whatever. We're not going to look past that. But the 14 games left, whenever game 26 gets here, going into that game, what's going to be their record?
I'm going to say 8-17. I'm going to be optimistic. And that feels
Wow. That is really optimistic.
Yeah. More probably, I think maybe my real gut move is probably 7-18, but I'm going to be optimistic and go 8-17.
All right.
I think that involves them being like, 6-9 essentially, including this game, 6-8 the rest of the way. We'll see. Hopefully they catch some breaks, with roster stuff. But they need to beat San Antonio on Saturday, because they're not going to beat Boston on Sunday. They need to get and they're going to have some rest. Hopefully Smart, I hope, I don't know. Will be the key is really, again, how serious is Marcus Smart's ankle injury? Are we talking like a couple weeks out, or are we talking a couple months out? Because if it's a couple months, then that makes things really, really difficult.
Well, they only have 6 games left of this entire month. They have a very favorable schedule, coming up, 3 days rest, 2 games, 2 days rest, a game, a day rest. And then you it's an easier schedule than they've had so far. So I'm hoping they do get the health back that they need. I do like that prediction. Last thing I want to have is we do have a thing that we actually just gave away something today on the show for the first time. We've had 3 other guests on and finally was able to do our giveaway. It's called Grizz Teller. It's a playoff of the Fortune Teller. So I want you to give me your prediction on this Spurs game. All I'm asking for is who's the winner. It's going to be the Grizzlies or the Spurs. And then I just need you to tell me a score. I don't care what the score is. What we do is we total it up. And then after we total it up, if you're within 10 points either way, then whoever is the closest, once they give their predictions through our comment section on Twitter, they actually get to be the winner of this. And so you don't win anything. You just help the fans win. So Mark Giannotto, you're our Grizz Teller. Who wins against the Spurs and what's the score?
I'm going to hope it's the Grizzlies. I'm going to go Grizzlies, even though I'm a little scared. Wembanyama hasn't been playing great since his big game, whatever it was, a week ago.
Right.
He might be due for a big game. He didn't have a great game against Holmgren tonight. But the Grizzlies are going to be coming off a lot of rest. And they're going to have they're going to know they have this tough game against Boston the next night. So I'm going to go Grizzlies 112-107 over the Spurs.
Ooh, I like it. I like it. All right. He is Mark Giannotto from the Commercial Appeal, also 929 ESPN, 2 to 4 every day on your radio dial. So make sure you tune in. Mark, you have anything else before we get you out of here?
No, I got to get to sleep, man. I got to take my kids to school in the morning. So thanks for having me on.
I hear you. Thank you so much, man.
All right.
I am highly upset, man.
Oh, man.
ESPN, you dastardly dogs you. Last week had us feeling good. They picked the Grizzlies to be first in the West with about 48.5 wins. And what a difference a few days makes.
What a difference.
You put out your list of the top 100 players in the NBA. Desmond Bane jumps in at 61. Jaren Jackson Jr. comes in at number 31. Jaren's top 25 to me, but if you all right, whatever. I think that's a little slight to Jaren. Desmond Baines is disgusting, in my opinion. Then we get Ja Morant, All-NBA player, 2-time All-Star, one of the most dynamic offensively players in the NBA, Ja Morant. That guy was number 35 on their list, Kenny Stubblefield. The same people that said the Grizzlies will be the first team in the West. They're going to get that done with just some regular dudes.
Tune in to the Anthony Sane Show Wednesdays and Fridays at 12 p.m. weekly on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
All right, we are back. Thank you again to Mark Giannotto for coming on. Listen, it's been hard to get him on because at home games, he's there all the time. He's in the locker room after the games. And so for him coming on a post-game show, it's much harder than it has been, before. If you followed us for any time at all, Mark Giannotto, as well as many other people and guests have come on and kind of had interviews with me. This is sometimes we're going to be a little bit more flexible. He was like, dude, I can't come on camera. I will be in my car, in the garage. That's all I can do right now. And so it was either this one or I think it was like a month from now or so. And I said, you know what? Let's just go ahead and get out of the way. But we do have some more up our sleeves. I have some coaches that I've actually spoke with this past week that are coming up here. One of them, Jacob Gilliard's college coach. And so we're going to have him on, Coach Mooney out at Richmond, the Richmond Spiders. He'll be on here. And then Jessica Benson is supposed to be joining us for the first Ja Morant game. And so that's going to be an exciting time. I want to bring somebody on here that's going to bring some pizzazz, some excitement And so Jessica's going to be joining us. But make sure you tune in to the Grizz 901. If you're not a subscriber already to the Bluff City Media Network on YouTube, please go ahead and do that now. It's easy. It's free. You push a button. And if you don't want all of the BCM stuff, then just follow us over at Grizz 901 over on YouTube, where we have all of our content over there all the time. We just crossed over 100 subscribers without doing anything. So whatever you're doing, pushing the button, thank you. I also saw tonight we crossed over 900 people on Twitter. I know that's a low number, but literally it's without us even having to push it. And so there's no promotion going on of, hey, follow us. It's just pretty much just sharing our show in a sense. And so thank you all for doing that. But make sure, if anything, go ahead and follow us on Twitter at Grizz 901 Podcast. We're going to put out the Grizz Teller stuff. Go ahead and hit up your share whoever your prediction might be. Mark Giannato's Grizz Teller prediction was the Grizzlies 112-107, right? So that is 219 points. Look at that. Nate, you're back with us. Anything that Mark said that interests you at all?
I mean, I think he was spot on when he was talking about, like, this team's just not that good.
They're not.
Like, I mean, and that's my main takeaway from tonight, you know, and I think Mark's on the money when it comes to the front office of, like, they deserve a chance to fix this, because part of it's like you have a healthy Steven Adams, you have a healthy Brandon Clark. It solves a lot of issues for you, right? Like, you're not nearly as outsized tonight as you were if you have those guys. At the same time, the fact of the matter is you are that outsized right now, and you don't have the pieces, and you did miss in that draft in a really big way, right? I mean, you threw a lot of darts, and so far not a single one of them has hit. And so it's and listen, I love David Roddy, and tonight I actually was one of the bright spots of the game. I thought you got some really good David Roddy minutes tonight. It was one of the few things that I thought was a true, like, hey, that actually looks pretty good. But at the end of the day, you've missed big time, and your wing situation is, I mean, dire. You are in trouble on the wings. All that to say, like, I'm not rushing to panic, you know, and we've said this, or I've said this a lot on the show lately, but Ja Morant fixes a lot more problems than I think we think he fixes. At the same time, if you look at this team in its current state with the injuries it has, and you say it's a contender, I think you're fooling yourself. It's not.
Yeah.
Now, can they get themselves into play-in contention? Yeah, absolutely. If they can hold water, which I think a split in LA, despite the way it looked tonight, was always the goal. If you go ahead and you get to an 8-17, something along those lines, you can push yourself into a play-in down the road with Ja Morant. You can make a couple moves here and there. But he's absolutely right. Like, the roster in its current state, with the players you have now, it's not going to get to where you want it to go. You've got to make moves, and you're going to have to give up guys that I think you don't really want to give up as a Grizz fan to get there.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right, so I agree with what you were saying with that in general, but my thinking is this team does need to get better. I don't know what they're going to do when Ja comes back in 14 games. It's kind of like you put your players into the formation that they're supposed to be in, that they would excel at the best. And that's what Ja does for this team. I'm hoping they get healthy. I'm hoping that was precautionary from Luke tonight on his knee. We're talking about 3 days rest. They're able to sleep in their own beds when they get back from the West Coast before they have to go back down into San Antonio. I'd imagine they're going to come home. I don't know why you would stay on the road, but but either way, I think this team has a chance to really get healthy. Are you talking about a game on Saturday, Sunday, doubleheader, and then you have 2 days off, Rockets, day off, Suns at home, and then you have a day off, T-Wolves, 2 days off, Jazz, those are all at home, and then another day or so off. Like, this team is going to get more rest than they've had. They've had a very tough schedule to start the season, road-wise, like back and forth on the road at home, but also just kind of staying out, on the road longer. A lot of 3 games in 4 days. And so I'm hoping that this team bounces back and is going to get healthier, because right now missing Smart does not help you at all. You might be able to get by that Spurs game, but you're going to have more bodies come back. But these young guys, hopefully the more people you get back, the more they can not play as much. But let's go ahead and get to one guy, because I know we want to talk about this a little bit. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but Jaren Jackson Jr., tonight, he just looked like he just didn't have it, right? And he's kind of sometimes he cowers down, and I hate saying that about a guy. I do think that he lacks a little bit of the mental toughness in general. But what's your thoughts on Jaren and his plays of late, but also just into the future of this team?
Well, as Jaren goes as a whole, if you're out on Jaren, you're not paying attention. Like the dude is clearly talented and does a lot for you. At the same time, man, like if you say, oh, Jaren's fine, it's just an off game, you're sticking your head in the sand too. Like it's not just an off game. He gets dominated by these big, strong players. And until he stops trying to play like a guard and he's willing to put it in AD's chest the same way AD's willing to put it in his chest, pause. Then in that point, you're able to actually like use him as a big. But at the end of the day, you had one guy on the roster tonight who is big enough, strong enough, good enough to keep up with the size of the Lakers, and he didn't show up for you. And that's a consistent theme when Jaren's going against physical bigs. And the problem is Jaren's big enough and strong enough to do that. Yeah. There's no reason Jaren can't be that physical. But he clearly gets intimidated and backs down from that, which is, listen, he doesn't have to do that to still be a good contributing player for this team. But if he's ever going to be a great contributing player for this team, that's got to change. Night in and night out, great. Like night in and night out, a difference maker. He's got to play like a big and quit trying to play like a guard and be as physical as the guys he's going against. And
is he too nice?
No, I don't know about that, dude. No, I have no idea. I don't know, Jaren.
I'm just asking.
I don't know. I genuinely don't know.
Like, if you look at his game, like he has to have some toughness to him, a little bit of grit to him. Like, listen, I think Desmond Bane is a nice guy, but sometimes you need to get in people's face. Like tonight, for example. You saw Desmond Bane get in Anthony Davis's face, right? He's obviously, AD's a much bigger guy than he is. Desmond Bane is a very nice guy, what we all understand and what we all think, right? He is nice, but he also understands when to kind of turn it on and have that toughness. I don't think Jaren has that level yet. I think he's nice and a very good guy, but I don't think he has that switch that he can flip to change into a different kind of guy.
I don't know if Jaren's ever going to have that switch, though. So, yeah, I don't think he has that piss and vinegar in him. I don't think he has that mean streak in him. I don't. And I don't know why he would ever develop that if he doesn't have it at this point. Like, if you're expecting him to develop that as a Grizz fan, I wouldn't hold my breath.
All right.
Like, why would he? Here's a real situation. He's a multimillionaire that also has a side music career. Like,
but that doesn't help us win right now.
You want to be angry? Why in the world would you want to be?
If he wants to be the best version of himself, he has to find that. He has to find and develop that himself.
What year is he? 6?
If you were an owner,
6 year 7.
If you were
year 6 or 7 for Jaren,
who cares? One of them. If you were an owner or GM, would you give him a max contract if that's what the market told you to do?
Yes. Because it's a market, dude. There's people like Jeremy Grant getting these massive contracts, dude. Yes, I'm giving Jaren the max contract. Yes, absolutely. He is that talented, even without the mean streak. So, yeah. But listen, this is the world of the NBA. You got to give these guys the money. Same way you did Desmond Bane. Same way you did John Morant. Like, you give these guys money and hope they turn into what you want them to be.
Yeah.
That's what you have to do. But, like, listen, I want Jaren to get that mean streak. Every Grizz fan wants Jaren to get that mean streak and to get physical. Dude, I don't know what to tell you. He's year 6 or 7, and it ain't happening. It's just not.
No.
And listen, and I've said this again and again and again. Jaren's awesome. He's been awesome for the majority of these games this year.
Yeah.
He gets dominated by these bigger players because he's intimidated. Like, he gets swatted, and he's not going back in there. That is Jaren.
Wow.
That's Jaren.
Well, Goon the shooter says I wouldn't resign him.
Well, Goon hates Jaron.
Yeah, that's fine. We understand.
Goon, thank you for coming in, but it's clear you hate Jaron.
Hey, listen,
we're gonna disagree on that.
We understand the agenda. I'm going to go ahead and keep marching for you, but unfortunately, I think they're going to resign him if they were given that option, and I think they will be given that option. But real quick, I have to go back. We're gonna reroute real quick, right? Go back for a second. Ryan has a question. So this is something I brought up to Mark Giannotto, and I've had this, and we've talked about this before. But because Mark wasn't able to answer this, I think it'd be important just to kind of give it to you. If the Grizzlies were 6-19 when Ja came back, right? Do you think they're still making the play in? And also, would you want to?
I wouldn't want to. I mean, to put this in a really bad way, the best thing would be for Ja Morant to make another ill-advised video, and then the Grizzlies just go into the lottery.
Because that doesn't help them for the future. You want Ja to come back, but them like have something that happens where they aren't good enough to win, and then eventually they have to just say, "Hey, we're going to just go for next year."
And I'm saying that if they're 6-19 when he comes back, if they're somewhere around like the 8-17 to 10-15 range, then which is like a small miracle if they get to that.
Yeah.
But that's a little bit of a different world. I think just the way that the plan has worked so far, there is still a chance at 6-19 when you bring in, again, I think we all would say Ja Morant's top 10, top 12, at worst, top 15 player in the world. You bring that player back onto your roster, there's a chance you still make the play in. So it could happen. 6-19 is tough, though. The 13 games under 500 is like, that's real tough. And I personally wouldn't really want you to. But 6-19, I know the pace that they're on, right? What are they, 2-9 now? So they're on pace for 4-18. So it's like it's pretty brutal. That being said, like you split LA.
That's so bad.
If you're but look at it this way. If you split these games, like let's look at it objectively with what we have coming up.
Okay.
Spurs, think the split.
Okay. Split Spurs and Celtics. Okay. I can deal with that.
Okay. Rockets, Suns, I'm not optimistic. Do you think they can come away with a split?
No.
Okay. Timberwolves, Jazz. Jazz is at home. Do you think they can split that?
No. They haven't shown anything that they can beat the Jazz. They've lost to them twice already.
See, I think they can split that. So I think they can split that. Mavs, Suns.
Nope.
I don't think they can split that. Mavs, Rockets. I'm not sure they can split that. Right? Then you get the Thunder's, Pelicans. I think they can split that. But it's just like you've got to find a way to split some of these games. And
you do. Yeah, you're right.
If you find a way to split these games, you do. And we talk about this. David Roddy all of a sudden gets hot, plays like he did tonight. Like you're not going to play the Lakers every night, who are
it's
just way
every team
are just way better than you. But two, the Lakers are like a prime mismatch for you. The Lakers are huge and athletic. You got zero athletes out there for the Grizzlies. Name one. Name an athlete for the Grizzlies at this point. You can't. So that's like a particularly horrible matchup.
We don't have hoopers. Right. We have basketball players.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. We got a couple of hoopers, but mostly basketball players. But yeah, if you get guys that are hot and you catch teams that are cold, you all of a sudden win a couple that you shouldn't win, which happens all the time in the NBA. There's still a path to 8-17. Now it's gonna be brutal, but listen, I'm just not overreacting to the loss tonight. You don't have good players. The Lakers have a lot of good players. You're tiny, they're huge. Like I don't know what you want me to say. It's still the NBA, and until they're 6-19. I'm not going to be like, oh, they're for sure 6-19 because it's the NBA and things can switch. So,
all right, let me give you the downside of this. I think best case scenario at this point is they are 6-19.
I disagree. I think it's case.
Out of the next 14 games, I think they can win 4 of the next 14.
They're at 2, so they have to win what, 6?
No, they win 4 more. 4 of the 14
to get to 6 and 19. Now I'm saying they'd have to win 6 to get to 8 and 17.
Correct.
Like it's just not
You'd
out
have
of
to
the
go
realm
6 and 8.
I agree.
That's
I
tough.
agree. But I guess just as a fan, I'm not willing to sit here and say, okay, I'm out on the season right now when we're 11 games in. I'm just not going to do it. Like, is it a long shot? Yes. It's 6 and 8. Like, oh God, I don't think that can happen. Yeah. Let's just be honest. Yes. But what are we going to do? Like, honestly, as a fan, what are you going to do?
Nothing. I'm just being realistic. That's all.
And
I'm
not going to be. I'm not going to be realistic because I have to tune into these games every night, and it's just. It honestly is the NBA. If all of a sudden Desmond Bane, the Grizzlies start shooting 50% from 3 for a 6-game span, then it's like, okay, which you say, no, there's no way that can happen. If you'd have told me the Lakers shot 62%,
I would have believed
35 threes, I'd have been like, there's no chance.
I would have believed you, honestly.
No. So
the Grizzlies have looked bad, honestly. And so I don't want to belabor the point any longer. We don't know what they're going to do. We don't know what the record's going to be.
I want to pull one thing up.
Oh,
Ryan said we look great doing dribbling drills. I disagree. I don't think they look good doing that either. I think it looks
individual dribbling drills. Like we look okay, and then it's like, oh, then they put the ball up. And then
no, dude. What did you watch Zaire Williams try and dribble tonight? It was tough to watch.
All right, let's get into the next game that is on the docket. We don't spend too much time on this, but we do have 3 days off. Obviously, the Spurs are at 7:00. It is at San Antonio. The Spurs just got 30 ball tonight by OKC. Man, I'm curious of how this game goes. I'm curious of how we end up looking in general. I just think that we have a chance to really match up well against a team like this. Like looking at the Spurs in general is they have a guy who's really tall, right? Mr. Tiny Toes. But when I look at the box score and I look at some of the games that they have, you're talking about Zach Collins, who's a power forward. He's kind of their big in a sense, outside of Wemby. I think Jaren matches up with Wemby well, and I think that Zach Collins, you can put X, you can put Biyombo on him, and I think that's a decent matchup either way for us. I like maybe Zach Collins' offensive end better than our guys, but overall, I think we're better rebounders than Zach Collins is. And so I think Wemby and Jaren kind of, I wouldn't say equal each other out, but I'm just saying they have the length on both of each other, and that can go match up and go either way. Wemby has not looked great on the offensive end as of late, but defensively, obviously, he can be a menace.
Well, get ready for your get right, Wemby.
Yeah, exactly. But the key matchups I'm looking at is Jeremy Sohan, who is he is the energy guy. He is the Xavier Tillman, and so I think guys like Santi can be good against him. Arati can play well against him. I feel good about that matchup. And then Devin Vassell he's been their shooter for them. I don't see Keldon Johnson. I don't know. Do you know if Keldon Johnson's hurt by any odd chance?
I got no idea.
Okay, I don't either. I thought he was playing, but I guess maybe not. But the rest of their team, mid. They're fine. They went 9-30 from deep tonight. They did not shoot well. But I would think that they're going to shoot much better. So if you're looking for some stats to take, I will say take Devin Vassell for at least 3 3-pointers. As Sid Martin says, Devin Vassell is highly underrated, and I do agree. I think he just came back from injury as well. Julian Champagne, I don't know, whatever his name is. He went actually. Yeah, he went 3 of 7 from deep tonight. So it looks like they're going to throw him up. And so even Seti Osman on the bench, Dougie McBuckets, 1 of 2 tonight on the bench, they're going to throw him up. Malachi Branham went 0 of 4 from deep. And so this team did go 9 of 30 tonight from deep. You're going to see a ton of 3-pointers. And so for one, if you're looking for some player props to play, if you're a gambling person, look at their 3-pointers. Anybody needs 1 or maybe 2, Ryan is your guy. He's going to be hitting on them all night in the Discord, so join us for that. But overall, the matchup that we kind of talked about so far, Nate, anything that you're looking at?
It's on the second night of a back-to-back for the Spurs. So let's just pray that game goes into OT. They got soft legs and they can't make their shots because they're going to get open ones. And listen, that team they're better than the Grizzlies. Let's just be honest. They're better than the Grizzlies. So, yeah, I imagine Devin Vassell, if they have semi-fresh legs, I think Devin Vassell is going to murder the Grizzlies on Saturday. I'm just going to be honest. Like, he's the first guy that came to mind of who would be able to put the Grizzlies in the hole. And the Grizzlies defense, they still can't figure out how to correctly help and win one-on-one matchups. So unless their 3-point defense magically gets solved in the next 3 days, I got a bad feeling.
We in trouble. As Sid Martin says, we are so down bad when we're saying we match up well with San Antonio Spurs.
Listen, if you're the Grizzlies, you gotta fly around every game. You have to want it more every game. And I don't think they have the type of guys that want it more every game. I think you got a handful of guys.
Who are your want it more guys?
Dez, Gilliard. I was going to say Smart, but I guess that doesn't count anymore. Maybe Biz. I think Biz leaves it all on the floor. I think tonight he doesn't have it. You don't have what you need to be able to compete with AD if you're Bismack Biyombo. Roddy. Maybe throw Tillman in there. I feel like I'm forgetting one person, but that's it. I think Tillman's solid, works hard, but I think the whole want it more thing is a bit of a stretch there. I think you got Bane, Gilliard, Biz, Roddy. I think you got 4 guys.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that you're looking at a guy that you put your stock in Bane. You know he's going to go to work every day. You know he's going to lay it all out there for you. And so I couldn't agree more with him. I think Roddy does come in and play for you. You know, Roddy is a guy that I've always said, even last year, he's the guy that you can bring in and spot, times and spot minutes and, spot situations, and he's going to flourish. And so I'm hoping that he keeps playing those spot minutes and those spot, games that he can be really excel in. And they try to figure out how Santi can come in and be effective in some games, how Roddy can come in and be effective in some games, how they can figure out Zaire and getting back confident again. I don't know what it is, but I'm curious of how all this happens going forward. But like you said, they do need to come out and they do need to play with a little bit more energy than the other teams. That's the only chance they have at this point, is they have to play with more effort. And that's what it comes down to. The Grizz are a perfect rest game for Wemby, Ryan says. That's interesting because you're talking about a guy who is young and Wembanyama. I wonder about him in general playing on a back-to-back. I haven't looked at their schedule and I haven't paid too much attention to it, whether or not they do set guys on back-to-backs in those situations, because that Friday night is a play-in game. I'm not saying that everybody's going to be going all in to win that game, but why wouldn't they go in to win that game? I don't think they're not making the playoffs this year. Let's just be honest. So if they have something to play for, then why wouldn't they go ahead and go all in for that game instead of the Grizzlies game? And so I don't know. What's up?
Who's Wemby's lucky backup that gets to go off for the night? Listen, I'm trying to be optimistic in the long term. When I look at it game to game, I'm very pessimistic. I don't have a good feeling about literally any game that the Grizzlies play. And listen, you don't have the horses. You just don't.
No, you don't.
You're not good. You don't have good players.
Nope.
That's it.
Yeah.
I do want to say that for the Grizzlies as far as the season goes. If people are like, fire Taylor Jenkins, throw out the front office and stuff,
not gonna happen.
Well, it's not gonna happen. And with Taylor Jenkins, I think there can be arguments made of why Taylor Jenkins has not done a good enough job. All that to say, dude, you don't have NBA players.
Right.
Like, I don't know what else you want to do. At the end of the day, like, your players are not good enough. Look at the lineups.
Yeah, they're too inconsistent as well. Like, they might have game to game, they might be okay. Okay.
You're counting on Santi Aldama to carry a lot of weight.
Yeah.
It's Santi Aldama, dude, who I think is a good, like, end of the rotation NBA player.
He's a good 8 to 10. Good 8 to 10 guy.
Bro, you want him to help win you games. This is the state of the Memphis Grizzlies. Like, dog. They're not good. Give me my NBA players back. I want my NBA players back.
Sis says it's Bane, Smart, Jaren, and then the Memphis Hustle.
Yeah, dude. Like that's why I'm choosing to be optimistic, because what have I got to lose?
Right.
The Hustle are playing against the Lakers tonight.
Yeah.
Like, dog, what are we going to do?
Let's
have fun with what we can have fun with.
Speaking of Spurs, one last thing I want to say on that is Ryan said he went back and looked at. They have had one back-to-back, and Wemby did play in both. And so, obviously, that's not good for us. I do want to see Wemby versus Jaren. I think it'd be exciting. I want to beat them no matter what, so might as well let Wemby play. Has a good chance to have more open three-pointers, so I can hit on some player props, personally. Last thing we do want to hit on before we get out of here and close this out. We have not talked about any trade rumors at all. Zero. Sid, I'll be more than happy to talk about these real quick. I don't think it will take too long to hit on this. The Bulls in general are probably going to blow it up at some point. They're going to get what they can for these guys, whether it's DeMar DeRozan, Nikola Vucevic, Zach LaVine, Alex Caruso. Any thoughts on any of those guys being added to this team? Good, bad, indifferent?
No. I mean, like, what are you going to send? What are you send?
You're not going to get Zach LaVine. You're not going to get Zach LaVine. No.
You can't get Alex freaking Caruso, dude. Like you don't have
picks. You have picks.
Yeah, okay.
You can make the money work. You can make the money work enough, and then send picks if you really want to. So I do like Caruso. I think he's a guy who can be a bench guy. I think he's somebody who can say, we have players that can, obviously be good. I think Caruso could be a good player that's around in this team. One player who we don't need, Dylan Brooks. Sorry, T-Money. Had to say it.
Yeah, I love Caruso, but like, I don't know what you're sending at this point. If you want to go bring in real contributing players, you're going to have to come off of Steven Adams or Brandon Clark, pretty much, unless something really fits with like a Santi plus picks or something like that. But yeah, and I'm with you. Like, I'm not closed off to those moves at all. But like, I don't think they're happening. I don't think the Grizzlies are making a move in the next month. Personally, I just don't see it happening. Now, if it's later towards the trade deadline and the Bulls are blowing it up, then someone like Caruso's on the table. Yeah, I think you could do something like that, but I wouldn't hold my breath.
Yeah, I wouldn't hold your breath either. I don't know. I just think that we're going to look back on this. I'm hoping this season, and it's going to be a pivotal. There's no B in there. Pivotal. Yeah, pivotal. Sorry. English is hard at 1:00 in the morning. At a pivotal moment within this career, this franchise, for the simple fact that if you look at the Warriors in general, when they had all those injuries, they had a big step back year because of the injuries. And, we have our injuries, but also a suspension. There's a lot, to be going into correlation of both. And they ended up getting a decent draft pick, and they went ahead and were able to maybe get some stuff back in the cupboard, maybe send some stuff out to be able to, just change some things up. I think the Grizzlies this season have a chance to say, hey, we're going to make these decisions and look at next year. And whatever happens this year, happens this year. But I think they might eventually mid-year take a step back and say, hey, we're going to look at next year. And we're going to whatever moves we're making is for next year, whether it's taking on a player with more money down the road and sending out a guy who we think could be good. It could be a guy like Marcus Smart. They could send somebody out like that and get somebody else back that's in the long term. I'm not saying any of that would happen, but if it's my opinion, I think something like that happens. Whatever moves are being made is not going to be for this year. I just think it's going to be for the future.
I'm just going to say this. With Steven Adams out, this year's gone. If you're looking at a championship, like there's still a chance to go and like have like be competitive, try and make the play in, have fun. That's all still within the realm of possibility. This year, as far as like trying to contend and win a championship, you're too small, you're too weak, you don't have enough talent. It's not happening.
Yeah.
Like you would have to completely revamp a roster. Like it's not just the wings, it's your big situation. Right? It's your backup guard situation is not good enough right now. Like the whole Marcus Smart getting hurt thing, we'll see. Hopefully it's a mild ankle sprain or something like that or less, but didn't look great.
No.
Like you have to revamp an entire roster. So and that's not happening within the season.
No,
so
I agree.
It's all for next year. It's all for next year. All the moves have to be next year focused.
Sid asked a question, last question of the night. We're going to end on this one. Is it too risky to try to trade for anyone with y'all coming back a month or so before trade deadline? The answer is yes. And to answer it, we kind of answered it in a roundabout way earlier a few seconds ago, is everything you're doing is for next year. It's not for this year. I want this team to be good. And if they are at the trade deadline, they're going to be playing with their hair on fire to where then you can make a move for this year. You can, but I don't see that happening. If it does, so be it, right? It's like you closed your eyes and you hit a home run. Like that's exactly what happens. Like that's not going to happen, I don't believe. But either way, we have a lot to be excited for. But we're gonna say that anything that they do for the upcoming foreseeable future will be for any moves that they end up making will be for the long haul for the next year. Because honestly, you have to get so much luck to go your way to be able to win a championship. The roster has to be, set perfectly. Everybody has to be healthy. Matchups have to be there for you. If you have any kind of warts, they're going to show 100%. And you already have warts in the regular season, let alone in the playoffs. And so it's going to be tough.
Yeah, there's no winning a championship this year.
No.
You're missing too many pieces. Like when you came into the season, the idea was Brandon Clark's out. That sucks. The rest of your season's pretty well good to go. Like outside of Ja, who's coming back after a suspension. You have no big. You have no true big. Like Bismack Biyombo has been awesome so far. But like you saw his limits. You saw his limits tonight. It's not happening, dude. It's not happening.
Yep.
You can make that trade. It's got to be a future-focused trade. If it helps this year, awesome. Wonderful. It's got to be looking towards the future, though.
Yep, I agree. All right, well, that was a great show. Thank you for everybody who joined us. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I have to be up in about 5 hours, and so I can't wait. Should be a fun day on the JOB. But once again, thank you everybody for joining us, whether you're on Twitter, whether you are here watching us here on YouTube. Thank you for all the better that put in the comments. For everybody listening to on audio on Spotify, Apple, thank you all. We've had some really good downloads as of lately. A lot of people that have been interacting with us. I can't thank you all enough. This allows us to kind of have a vent session, but also it's not really our show, it's your show. And so I'm glad that everybody kind of helps in and kind of, gives their 2 cents, because that's really what makes this show and makes it fun. But over the weekend, I would believe that me and Nate are going to split up a little bit. Nate's going to take a day. I'm going to take a day. And then we're going to have some guests coming on. I believe that I'm going to try to get somebody with me that you all are going to like. And so we're going to have him on with us whatever day that I come on. And so don't want to say that too just yet until we get closer to time. Make sure nothing happens. Don't want to spoil that. But it should be a lot of fun. But we're going to keep having some guests on, and we'll make sure we put out the Mark Giannotto Grizz Teller thing. He had the Grizzlies 219 total points. And so we'll look out and find out who is the winner for this pastime, and we'll make sure we get out your information to you. But that's all we got. It's been a great show. It's been a long show, but it's been a great show. We'll see you Saturday. Go get some sleep already. Be nice and tell your friends.